Welcome to the Highlands, Glens and Western Isles Audax, the toughest bike ride Scotland's ever seen.
You have a brevet card, inside are control points.
The bike's nothing special, to be honest. Triple chainset on the front and quite a large cassette on the back, so the bike's really good for going up hills.
Carbon stem, carbon handlebar, titanium screws. With the newest model, I think it would be like 6,000 pounds or something like that.
They've come from far and wide, from right across Scotland, the rest of the UK, and even from Denmark and Sweden. They're taking part in an event that has its roots deep in cycling history, and to most people, including fellow sportsmen, defies logic. Welcome to the world of Audax. This is cycling at its most extreme. Harder than the Tour de France or any of the big events, it isn't a race, yet entrants battle against the clock and their own pride.
Everyone says it should be fun to exercise, and I think that's stupid. Of course it should be fun sometimes. Sometimes it should be something else.
Meet Jan Andersson from Stockholm. He's 43, has only been in the saddle for 5 years, and is normally a project manager for a printing group. For the next 4.5 days, his whole world will be devoted to the exceptional demands of this event.
It should be you learning how to handle pain, for instance, or it should be you feeling good about yourself and what your body can handle or what you can handle mentally.
Audax cycling is known to only a few people. It originated in Italy, and the rules, such as they are, were formalised in France 100 years ago. Most importantly, a card called a brevet must be stamped as proof of a rider's progress. It's a strange world where day and night cease to have much meaning. It's a journey where entrants push themselves and their bikes to the limit and beyond.
I got up at, I think now, about 4:30 a day and a half ago.
Something is wrong if you like to cycle distances they are not normal.
I was descending that hill. As soon as I came out of turn, I started braking, and there was gravel as well on the bridge. It's never pleasant when you fall. My elbows as well is a bit bleeding. Yeah.
Almost 30 exceptionally keen riders have signed up for what is the hardest cycling event ever staged in Scotland. It sounds simple enough. The Highlands, Glens and Western Isles Audax. But just look at the route. Starting in Brodick on Arran, the cyclists follow the western coast through Mull, the eastern part of Skye, and then head relentlessly north through Ullapool, Lochinver and onto Durness. After that they pedal east and then south through Lairg, Dingwall, the Great Glen, Fort William, Glencoe and Inverary before finishing at Saltcoats, just opposite from where they started. But here's the rub. A route of 1,300 kilometres has to be completed in just 100 hours. For comparison, it took me 3 times as long to cycle from Land's End to John O'Groats, a route that's only a tad longer.
If you want to enjoy your work, it helps to have a hobby that's worse.
Ken Thompson is a civil servant and an Audax veteran. He knows what to expect. This event is his summer holiday.
So I've planned this as 2 day rides of just a bit over 200k each, so they're like ordinary days out. But then I'm doing a 600k ride within the 1300.
You're just living to cycle. It's just pedal, 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 pedal. You know, sleep, eat, pedal, 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 pedal.
David Crampton lives in Fife, but cycles to the capital most days. Married with 2 children, he thinks taking part in Audax events is a sign of a midlife crisis.
Go to new places and have new experiences and go through difficulties with other people at the same time. But you are just riding against yourself, really. You just have to keep going.
This is the first time an Audax of this length and severity has been held in Scotland. The riders need to complete almost 300 kilometres every day, however long that takes.
It's my first one. It may well be my last. So people say, oh no, they're not always all as tough as this, but they all sound pretty tough.
We lead such comfortable lives, so to suddenly be put on a a sort of knife edge of it's not life or death most of the time, but it reminds you what's important.
It's Monday the 21st of July and everyone's making their way to Arran for the start. Unlike many highly organised events, there's a do-it-yourself attitude that is typical of the Audax community.
We call it a shoestring event, and basically you'll get to the first control and all we have to do is go to the Tourist Information Centre or something and get them to stamp our card and sign it. Or there'll be a shop where you can get a detail receipt that just got the time and location on it, and that's all we do. There'll be no one there from the event to help us out in any way.
Scotland's hardest cycling challenge is the brainchild of an Englishman.
Duncan McGregor.
Mark Rigby lives in Tewkesbury and wants to get back to the original ethos of the sport, one where the rider is self-reliant and can't depend on external help.
This is bare bones, which is what Audax is all about. Yeah. Audax is about self-sufficiency. The only thing that's compulsory on these events is getting the brevet card stamped at the controls and being at the controls within the allotted time span. Okay, gents, so I have your attention. The controls in the towns, I've suggested tourist information centres, cash points, post offices, and if you know they're there, then you're in luck. And if they're open when you pass, you're in luck.
And you'll be disappointed if you expect a dramatic start. Audaxes don't do it that way. The very opposite, in fact.
You're free to go. Enjoy yourself. Any problems, or if you're not going to finish, text me on the number in the brevet card.
You cannot come to the start of any ride without thinking you're not going to finish, because those thoughts will grow. Oh, there's that huge great hill there, and what if? You can't think like that. You have to know you're going to finish, and you have to set off in that belief. It may not work out like that, but you have to start like that. Otherwise, any small problems will start to eat away at you, and it's just those culmination of little issues that will suddenly end up in you thinking, there's a train station there. I'm going to get the train home.
I'm expecting really nice views, a really hilly course, and right now I'm feeling rather nervous. And there are some butterflies in my stomach. But probably a good thing. You can run many kilometers on adrenaline alone.
Nearly there.
Yeah. The things I'm nervous about, it's of course the distance. But more than that, I think it's 18,000 meters to climb. And it will average 3,600 meters per day. And I mean, that's like a mountain stage on Tour de France or something like that.
After 24 kilometres of cycling through Arran, it's a ferry hop to the Kintyre Peninsula before a diversion south to Campbellton. Then there's over 85 kilometres north to Oban. But it's not as simple as that. No one will be fast enough to catch the last ferry across to Mull, which means it's an easy first day by Audax standards, a mere 156 kilometres. And those sea crossings bring an added complication to the first 2 days of this event.
On this ride it's particularly challenging because we have the control points, but we also have ferry rides. And the ferry journeys are going to cause us to lose some time. And if you miss the ferry, of course, you lose a lot of time. So there's that additional challenge of making sure that you know what pace you have to ride in order to make the next ferry, to make the next control, know how much time you've got in hand. So there's always a bit of your brain that's sort of working out how many hours you've been on the road, where the wind is, how much speed you've built up, how much time you've got in hand, just how fast you're going to have to ride to get to the next control, and what would happen if you had a puncture or a mechanical. You might lose half an hour. So it's all juggling all those things, making sure you finish in the right time. That's the challenge.
Heja Sverige!
Just over 10 hours after setting off, one of the earliest to get to Oban is Rimas Grigenas. He's a Lithuanian who's been living in London for the last 10 years. His first Audax was in 2009, when he completed the London-Edinburgh-London event. Since then, he's become addicted to long-distance cycling.
Scottish pounds, Robert Burns. I was cycling quite a bit, just going to work and back, and then I rode to Brighton, from London to Brighton and back, and I thought, I'd like to visit Scotland because I've seen pictures and seen some movies and it's so beautiful. And why not to go on a bike? And Odax, I don't know how I came across that link, but I've seen that it's an organized ride to Edinburgh and back. So I thought, yeah, why not? And I slightly overestimated my abilities and underestimated the distance.
This July week, the Scottish landscape is at its finest. But in spite of long days, many riders don't make it to Oban before dark. And this is one of the shorter sections.
I thought I was going to be struggling by the time I got here, but it turned out not bad. My legs were pretty tired to be a bit further back, but I was cycling with somebody most of the way, which makes a big difference.
Stuart Allen's from Fife and part of an Odax family. Not surprisingly, he's been cycling in long-distance events since he was a youngster, but this is the biggest challenge he's taken on.
Tomorrow's the big test. Just because I've cycled so far today, it's not sure how my legs will be if I have to do another really long day on top of that. But I'm going into like uncharted territory with this big consecutive days type stuff.
Thanks very much, okay.
It's 7:30, I think it is. We're just waiting on the first ferry to leave from Oban across to Mull. Ferry leaves at 7:45. It's an alright night's sleep. I got stuck in a dorm with a snorer, but it was okay.
We've got just under 100k to do to get to the Mallaig for the ferry to Skye, and if we do that fast, then we'll save about an hour and a half. So that makes the difference for me between getting to bed about 11 o'clock or getting to bed a whole hour and a half earlier. So there might be a sprint on for the 100k up to Mallaig.
Odax events attract a wide variety of people. What they have in common is a love of long-distance challenges and the lack of organisation that's integral to most sporting events. The key qualities are determination, stamina, and an absolute refusal to give up.
I like to push myself. I like to do new things that I've not done before. I like to take things a bit to extreme or excess. It's like being a child again, you know, you're riding along, you can go wherever you want, you're going to be a lot faster than you are on foot. And when you can ride at the level that we do, where you can ride all day and not get too tired, it's really good fun. You just kind of lose yourself on the road. You've got a goal that's your main objective is to get to the next control or to get to the finish. So you're not just riding anywhere with no finish point.
In just under an hour, the fastest cyclists have made it to the capital of Mull, Tobermory. Jan Andersson from Stockholm is riding with two fellow Swedish friends, Peter Hampus and Ori Livonen. They all know that once they return to the mainland, the hard work will really begin.
We have had a really slow cycling pace up till here. I mean, we have plenty of time. The ferry leaves at 11. But next phase will be tougher. 90 or 95 kilometers, and we have to do it in 4 hours, I think. Yeah. Just under 4 hours, and that's pretty tough in these terrains. In Sweden, it would have been no problem, so easy. But here, it's tougher.
We were planning on doing it in a little bit under 4 hours.
You want to do it under 4? Be my guest.
So you think it's going to be tough, really tough?
It's really quite difficult territory.
All right.
All the way.
The riders are now faced with a choice. If they ride flat out, they might catch the 3:20 crossing from Mallaig to Armadale and Skye. If they miss it, there's an hour and 20-minute wait for the next ferry.
Wow.
Odax riders will tell you that it's not a competition or a race. Take that with a pinch of salt. Lithuanian Rimas Gregenas and Swedish rider Jan Andersson decide to make a break to get to the first boat.
Go for the ferry! It's always great to catch an earlier ferry if we can, hour and 20 ahead, which means we'll get dinner in time.
Nick!
Hey! Hello guys. Hey! Just gonna down at lane number 5, please.
All right.
Number 5. That special saddle. It was quite intense. We were pushing, motoring on. Good teamwork. My saddle just fell off.
We cooperated really well, I think, but some margin minutes. That's good over 95 kilometers.
Someone else who's eaten up the miles to get this 320 ferry is David Crampton. He's made it by just a short head or a front wheel.
I thought I was going to miss it. There you go, mate. I'm very warm now. No time for an ice cream, unfortunately. That's very kind, thank you very much. I'll see you later.
Till now, the pace has been dictated by the Calmac timetable. From here, it's a free-for-all. The only constraint is making it to next control, and how hard you can push your bike and your body, and crucially, your mind. Jan Andersen now covers over 10,000 kilometres a year on his bike. He's fit and he's enthusiastic, but it's not always been like that.
10 years ago, I was a real couch potato and a bit of a wobbly guy, weighed a lot more. And of course, when you're sitting still, not doing much, maybe having a little bit too much of sodas and stuff like that, the weight you have on your body is more fat than muscles. And of course, that's not really good for you. It's not healthy. Exercise has made wonders with my health. I'm a lot less days away from work because of illness.
Whilst Jan is heading north through Skye, most of the other riders are still crossing over from the mainland. 28-year-old Stuart Allen is the youngest person on this event. He's pacing himself carefully, but knows there's a lot left to do before the day's over.
I tried really hard to get here for the earlier ferry, and then I didn't think I was going to make it, so I just stopped with maybe 10 miles to go. I was just kind of took my time to get here, so it feels like I've gone quite far again, but I've done less than 100 miles, so I've still got this like more again to do. I'm probably stopping around like 200, 220, something like that. Should be fine. My mum and dad got me into cycling years ago when I was really young, and we used to do lots of mountain biking and stuff, and then they got into road cycling, so I went along with them, and then they got into Audax, and I got into Audax going on the back of the tandem with my dad. So I did most of my Audaxing on a tandem, and then I did 100-kilometre rides on my solo bike and stuff like that, so that was all good. And then I stopped Audaxing for years when cycling kind of wasn't cool at the time, and going out instead was. So, but now I picked it up 2 years ago, so this is my biggest achievement if I can finish. That's the plan.
The riders need to collect proof they've been to Broadford. Then they leave the islands behind as the route zigzags up Scotland's western seaboard. They'll go inland through Achnasheen before heading west again to Gairloch, and then winding their way up the coast, round Loch Broom and onto Ullapool. On the afternoon of day 2, the gap widens between the fastest and the rest of the group. As he pedals over the Skye Bridge, Ken Thompson has time to remember how his addiction to long-distance cycling began.
Well, my father was from Orkney, and we used to go to Orkney for our summer holidays. And one year with my 6-speed racing bike, I think it was in those days, this is like 35 years ago, I decided I was going to get off the train at Ardguy, just outside Inverness, and I cycled northwest from there up to Tongue, and then turned and stayed the night in a youth hostel up there, and then finished the ride the next day and caught the ferry and met up with my parents again and on to the holiday. And it was only about 20 years later that I counted and realised that that was my first 100-mile bike ride, because by that time I'd done my second and third one and I was feeling quite proud of myself, but I realised that I'd done a 100-mile bike ride before I left school.
2 hours later, and 32 kilometres further up the course, David Crampton is approaching Achnasheen.
Oh, tiring.
Time is becoming elastic, and the passing hours blurred.
If I just eat my lunch and then head off up the road, I should be alright.
It will only get harder from here.
I do need to sit down and eat and then push on to Pula this evening. They call it the bonk when you kind of run out of glucose in your body and you're just running on empty. You know, you bomb down the hill and then you've got to grind at the next one. And I was getting to the top of the hills and just getting a bit like, delirious.
As daylight fades and the hours tick by, the riders need to find a place to rest.
Cheers.
David Crampton's got 55 kilometres before he reaches Poolew. The three Swedish riders are slightly less ambitious. They've pre-booked the luxury of a hotel in Gerloch, but still have a lot of cycling before they find their bed for the night. Ken Thompson has played it safe and decided to break his journey here at Achnescheen. But it's 10:30 before he arrives, the end of a 15-hour day.
Enjoyed myself. Everything went to plan, so that's great. Had a bit of a doubt about 20 miles down the road there, because one of the guys who just passed me turned round, came back down the road saying, "It's the wrong road, it's the wrong road. Look at the map, it's the wrong road." And I was confident I'd done the GPS right, but for the next 20 miles there was just a little sort of niggling doubt. Moor, moor, and then you just turn down and there it is. So I was very pleased to see the sign. Tomorrow's my really big day. I'm planning to be away by about 6, but I'll probably try and get a bit ahead of that. Today was 150 miles and tomorrow's over 200.
But some of the riders won't stop pedalling.
Hopefully get a wee bit further up the road tonight.
Stuart Allen from Fife has just kept on going. He reaches Gerloch and finds a cash machine to get a receipt that'll prove he's been here. It's after midnight, but for him the day isn't over yet.
I'm not really sure about camping outside because the midges are pretty bad.
It's not just the distance that's a challenge for Stuart. He wants to have as much flexibility as possible, so decided not to book any accommodation. Instead, he'll bivvy out when he's too tired to keep pedalling. This is Audax at its most extreme.
I had a sleeping bag, my bivvy bag and my camping mat and 2 changes of cycling clothes. And that was pretty much it. I had my bike tools and stuff like that, but I didn't have any cooking equipment. I had a spork. That was quite handy.
But on the west coast of Scotland in the middle of summer and with little wind, there's always another enemy to face. An enemy that can make staying anywhere indoors seem a far better option.
My midget net was terrible, and then I just gave up, so knocked on a bit more and did an extra 10 miles, and then stopped in a public toilet. And so I stayed there for a while. Got up at 5:30, had a little wash, and then just got going again.
Coming up to 5:30 in the morning. Doesn't seem like long since I arrived. Today's 360k. It'll take me from here up to Gerloch, then Ullapool, little diversion to Lochinver, right up to Durness on the north coast. Lots of headlands there where you go up and then you dive down to the river and then back up again in big climbs. So the legs will be hurting by then. And then in the middle of nowhere there's a hostel that Mark has booked for us, and I don't know where it is, so I'm going to be relying on the GPS. And sometime about 2 o'clock tomorrow morning I'm going to get to the middle of nowhere and the route will run out and I will look around and there should be a building somewhere which is where I'm going to stop.
While Ken Thompson makes an early start after just 5 hours sleep, the Swedish trio have swapped their traditional muesli and yoghurt for that all-purpose pick-me-up, the full Scottish.
A little bit under 7 hours of sleep, I think, but that's enough. And this is the first time in a long time, I think, that I've woken up early because I'm low on energy. So this breakfast is it's really good.
I feel my legs are hurting and I feel very low.
It was long days. It's really hilly. You have rough surfaces on the roads. It's not the best quality maybe, which makes it so that you will get nothing for free. It's a tough event. Me and my friends, we had a stop at a few pubs and nice dinners and so on. You need the energy. I think it was Gerloch, we were there at maybe 11 o'clock at night or past 11 and we had like a peanuts and 2 beer. That was all. The film crew also called us the Swedish road train, and I think the most common comments from them was, the Swedish road train is on the move, and oh, have they stopped at the pub again? Now we are going to look for a nice restaurant and have a few beers. A few beers and some food. Thanks.
Enjoy.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.
For most cyclists, even by the hard standard of Audax events, today will appear endless. Ahead, the road stretches north to Durness. En route, there's a 50-kilometre diversion into Lochinver. But the majority plan to carry on, first along the north coast to Melvich, before heading south for a remote bunkhouse at Trantelbeg on Sutherland's eastern boundary. It's the sort of extreme biking that Stuart Allen's grown up with, and those who enter Audaxes become masters of understatement.
I'm quite used to cycling the bike long distances and maybe going for like 2-week holidays, so cycling the bike day after day I'm quite used to that, but going all day from a really early start until quite late at night, it was quite difficult at times, but after the first couple of days you just got so used to doing it, and well, we've got to get up now, so especially if you're sleeping at the side of the road, it's not like you can have a long lie. I entered it with the intention of kind of really to kind of beat my dad, because my dad had only ever done an 800, so I wanted to do something bigger than my dad had ever done.
I'll give it 11 out of 10 so far.
Lithuanian Rimas Grigenas is another cyclist undertaking this Audax in the most basic way possible, carrying just enough to be able to bed down at night when he can't ride anymore. The route to Lochinver takes the riders below Stack Polly and through a landscape that is literally world class. But the quality of the road surface doesn't match the view.
I wasn't going too fast, just normal speed, and as soon as I came out of turn, I started braking, and there was gravel as well on the bridge, and my front wheel just slipped, so I started sliding, and the biggest bruise is here. It's never pleasant when you fall.
Yeah.
And my elbows as well is a bit bleeding.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. Definitely nothing's broken, so that's good.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure if I can carry on.
Are you okay taking ibuprofen, yeah?
Yeah.
You won't be taking
It's the sort of thing, it happens in a split second, because Remus was maybe 10 meters ahead of me. You know, I was tracking him and it was coming right down, and it was really super fast, and then just the gravel and front wheel just went.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll see if I can ride a bit.
Remus has injuries to his arm, leg, shoulder and thigh, but they make him tough in Lithuania.
See you later. Thanks for your help. No problem.
Even so, he's badly shaken, and when he reaches Lochinver, needs medical help.
Take you through to the treatment room because I'll need to get some details off you. How long have you got to be seen? It's a timing issue with you, no?
It is. Yeah.
It is. Well, come here.
I've been taken care of by excellent nurse Sandra. Everything is sorted. The big patch here with the padding. It's gonna be good. I think it will last until the end.
Many of the cyclists are now arriving in Lochinver, but they don't all travel in groups. Marcus Jackson Baker is from London. He's taken part in many events throughout Europe and prefers to pedal alone.
Always on these long rides you'll have a rough stage, and often it's the first stage of a day, and the first stage today was very, very difficult. Nothing worked, legs, body, water was quite difficult, ran out quite a long way before Ullapool. So yeah, that was a very difficult section, but that last section has been the best riding so far, so all makes up for it and everything works again, so how it is. I personally enjoy riding solo rather than riding in groups. because then I can dictate my own pace, I can stop. I've taken quite a few photos on this ride. Lots of people don't notice things. To me, there's no point in doing it if you don't look around. Save that for the 24-hour time trial or something.
There are few rules in an Audax. The main one is to visit every control point to prove you've been there. Lochinver is a key control, but the route here is a choice for each individual. Halfway up the hill heading north towards Kylskew, 2 of the 3 Swedish riders realise they have a problem. They've been cycling so well they've simply forgotten to turn left, and our adventure show cameraman will be the bearer of bad news.
Well, we're just checking the route sheet. We're not sure when we will arrive to Lochinvar, but I think it shouldn't be that far.
Lochinvar is back.
Have we
Have you
passed
passed
it?
it? You've missed it.
Okay. I mean, the GPS track is wrong.
Yeah.
No, we have to go back to the control, I think.
Oh, I enjoyed that downhill so much. I'm not
Yeah.
going to enjoy it uphill.
We have to try to contact Mark and see if we have to go back. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't think we have any options, Peter. We have to go back and get it.
And the worst part is we have to catch Ari, who's gone ahead of us.
Yeah. Not so good.
Oh my god. 20 miles and then back again.
That's 32 kilometers.
It's going to be a long night again.
Now there's only one thing to do, to get back in the saddle and try and catch up with their teammate Auri. By the time they're all together again, Lochinver is over 30 kilometres to the south. The Swedish road train are faced with the biggest problem of the ride.
70 kilometers today. That's too much.
Yeah.
In this heat, it's way too much.
Let's go.
Yeah, good.
Bye-bye.
They decide going back isn't a realistic option. It's 5:15 in the afternoon. Unlike most of the other riders, the Swedish team plan to stay overnight in Durness. They're looking forward to a good meal and a decent sleep. The downside, 2 very long days will be needed to complete the event. Back down the road, David Crampton from Fife has just arrived at Lochinver. He's behind schedule after a difficult day.
I broke a spoke, and that I didn't realise. I kept pedalling for a wee while, just loosened my brakes off, and I could hear it rubbing. So I've had to just tighten carefully to bring the wheel back in line because it was off, obviously the kink. So I've trued the back wheel, but it's obviously weaker and it's rubbing. And if I try and get out the saddle, then I hear it rubbing more because you're putting pressure on the wheel. So I'm having to just spin.
If you have any problems on the road, people will stop and help you. And I find that in cycling in general, because I commute quite a lot to work and back. So if I see someone at the side of the road who looks like they may need help, we'll stop and help them. The bike is all you've got. You're not stuck in a little steel box with windows listening to your radio. You can stop and chat, or you can cycle and chat. I'm not waving, I'm drowning. Drowning in sweat. And often I'll cycle to work and you'll just happen to be cycling alongside someone at the same time and you'll just pass the time and talk about the weather, and then if you're cycling on the same Audax, then you'll maybe chat a bit more and you'll learn about each other, families and what they do for a living, and speak about rides you've done. So it's nice that it's very open and you can just chat to anyone.
Further north, the Swedes have arrived in Durness and tried to contact the organiser to discuss that missed control point in Lochinver. But mobile reception here is no match for that in Stockholm.
It has not been possible to connect your call. Please try again later.
Try to send him a text message.
It's 8:15, so a rare early finish for the Swedes, and a chance to compare alcohol prices in Scotland with their homeland. As the light fades, most of the other riders are still in the saddle.
Oh, that's steep.
After his 5:30 start, it's turning into a very, very long day for Ken Thompson.
The psychology of it's really interesting because every ride is as long as it is. It has a kind of natural arc, and there's the The bit where you're strong at the beginning, and the bit when you're cruising in the middle, and the bit when you're just pulling yourself to the end. And it doesn't matter if it's a 200k ride or a 400 or a 600. They each have that arc, and when you get to the end of a 200 you think, well, I couldn't get back on the bike and do another 200, but halfway around a 400 you feel fine. So just scaling that up to a 5-day ride. Is this day 3? Yes it is. So this ought to be the kind of cruising day. I'm just beginning to get a little bit slow, you'd kind of expect that. Tomorrow might be quite tough. Depends which way the wind is. It's been a bit south and east today, and that would be a headwind for most of tomorrow. And then I'll have a good bed to sleep in, good shower, clean kit, and then I know that day 5 will be fine, because you'll be on the flight path into the final control.
By the end of day 3, everyone's reached Durness. They've 710 kilometres under the saddle, but almost 600 lie ahead. After pedalling along the north coast, the route then goes through Lairg and Dingwall and onwards down the Great Glen to Fort William and on to Inverary. A final ferry hop from Dunoon to Gourock leaves the last stretch to Saltcoats. It's the early hours of day 4, but most of the cyclists haven't yet finished day 3. Many hoped they'd be able to complete the ride along the north coast in order to get to the bunkhouse at Trantalbeg by the early hours of the morning. Only a few have managed this.
The climbs, that was good. And the heat, that was nice. But now it is cold, and I have to keep stopping to put more and more clothes on. And that's hard. And when you stop, you get the midges over you. And when you get the midges over you, you then start to itch.
Phil Richards is from Leicester, and this is the first time he's ever done an Audax, yet he's one of the earliest to arrive here. In contrast, Mike Henley is an old hand at these events.
Okay, it's not even 2 o'clock, is it? Okay. Either on the road at 6 or on the road at 7. Most of that West Coast stuff, I've never been down there before. It's stunning. It's stunning and best appreciated on a bike, I have to say.
Those who got to the bunkhouse in the wee small hours are now ready to continue. Others, like David Crampton and Ken Thompson, are only just arriving.
I've been cycling for 24 hours. Well, the 4 of us got together at Durness, and we've been going since then, keeping each other going, a bit of banter. We've done the typical Audax thing, a badass thing they call it in Scotland, where you rest in a bus shelter. It's a very fine, well-appointed bus shelter, right next to a loo where you can fill your water bottle, and you can open your saurine loaf for the full Audax experience.
We've not stopped. We've literally been pedalling since 8 o'clock yesterday morning. I was on the bike, heading down the hill, and I'm thinking, do a glass of water. And then when I woke up on the bike, doing 30 kilometres an hour, I thought, where's my glass of water gone? I've fallen asleep. You know, if these micro naps, it's like, oh. Then you just on a bike.
This weather is a bit extreme even for Scotland, really. I was expecting it to be possibly 4 or 5 degrees cooler. And it is only just that 4 or 5 degrees that is tipping the balance into making it unpleasant.
Really tired.
It's expected today to go up to about 28. I was out earlier on and the thermometer on my mobile was saying 13 degrees centigrade. So people were actually coming in feeling cold, but I probably think that's because they were suffering from the heat of the previous day and their bodies got a bit too hot.
Heading east from Durness, the Swedes are making good progress and enjoying riding the section in the daylight when they can appreciate the Sutherland landscape.
Really, I don't have words enough, I think, to describe how beautiful I think it was. And I almost went off the road because I looked at the scenery. Scotland looks as Scotland does on film, in the movies. It's hilly, it's open space, and it's when you get to the north, it's I don't know the English word, but it's a bit tougher nature in a way, and that's really, really beautiful.
The Swedes get to the Trantalbeg bunkhouse just after lunch.
This is proof that I've been here.
So where do I sign there?
Everyone else has long since gone, but they're determined not to miss another control point. And in the true spirit of Audax events, our cameraman steps into the breach to stamp their brevet cards.
15.
They're still upset about missing out Lochinver and have found a discrepancy between the GPS information they were given and the route plan. They're worried they might face disqualification.
We are following the GPS route, and the route was not correct. So, well, we could have checked the route sheet, but on the other hand, the GPS route should be correct. So, yeah, normally when you miss a control like that, you're disqualified, but I think this is a judgment call. No answer. Okay, we'll try again later. Everyone, when we woke up this morning, you can feel aching limbs, but once we got started cycling, no problem. Ari pointed out that I'm getting Audax bags under the ice, so too much cycling, too little sleep, and maybe a few beers too much.
Most of the riders are now approaching Lairg, and they're weary. They've got 1.5 days left to finish, but nearly 400 kilometres still to go. The pressure's on, and the unusually high temperatures are taking their toll.
That was a relatively easy stage terrain-wise, but the heat is still absolutely appalling. And there is the option, if I feel good, I'll ride through the night because the heat's just too much for me. And push as far as possible. So we'll see. Pretty much everyone agrees that what we do is very difficult mentally, and more people will give up because of problems with motivation than any physical problems. Now, those physical problems can lead to motivational issues. So yeah, it is very difficult to keep your finger on the positive button for 5 days in a row, but that is what makes good long distance cyclists, people that can deal with difficult situations, be it weather or a mechanical issue, and stay focused on riding. By certainly the sort of end of the first day, you know, all that stuff from home and work, that's all forgotten. We're really into the sort of stripping down that long distance cycling involves. I've heard it sort of described as a reverse Maslow's triangle, his hierarchy of needs. All we need is food and shelter, and that's it. So it becomes quite nice and liberating. Equally, it does give you some time to think about stuff and sort most of it out, so it is a good escape. But yeah, that does happen. It takes a sort of about a day, and suddenly you forget all about home and work and all those stresses.
I got up at, let me think now, about 4:30 a day and a half ago. I'm going to have a shower because I haven't had a shower for quite a long time either, and my legs are graveyards to many generations of midges, and they're a sort of layer cake of suntan oil and midge repellent. Then I'm going to make sure I'm ready for tomorrow, because in the elation of getting that bit of the ride done, I mustn't forget that I've still got 265k to ride tomorrow on quite a full week of miles in the legs. So I'll check over the route, make sure that I haven't forgotten anything that I need for that, and then I'll put my head on a pillow and I'll be out like a light.
So we're heading to Speenbridge. It's about 15 miles or something. What did it say on the sign?
It's 51 to Fort William.
51 miles to Fort William?
Yeah.
Okay, so it must be about 40 miles
Yes,
to...
about 40 miles.
What's that in old money? Is that about 60k? Oh god, that's a long way.
60k.
We arrived in Drumnadrochit at around 1 in the morning on the sides of Loch Ness, and then we cabbied down the side of there to Speenbridge to control, and then we made our way down at the coldest part of the night. About 4 in the morning, it's very cold. So we got to Fort William around 5 in the morning and had a bit of a rest up, a layover for an hour or so. I was getting the dozes at about 6 in the morning, leaving Fort William, heading down for Ballyhoolish on the Friday morning. But as soon as I'd had an hour's sleep on a park bench, I was refreshed enough to carry on.
It's been a Herculean day for Stuart Allen. Just after 2 a.m. on the final morning, he's come to a stop in Glenorchy, having ridden right through Glencoe and over the Rannoch Moor.
I think I prefer riding at night. If you've got on the right headlight, then it's just nicer because there's no traffic and you don't have to worry about moving out of the way stuff all the time or pulling into lay-bys. And the ideal would get at least 3 hours sleep. Because last night I had 3 or less, and then the night before I just dozed for an hour. So, to see how I get on.
Today is going to be one of the longest days, and I don't want to risk anything, so that's why I'm doing this. But now I'm ready to go.
The Swedes need to make an early start on this final day if they're to stand any chance of getting to the finish in Saltcoats before the final cut-off time of 11:30 p.m. Currently, they're still north of Dingwall.
Most Audax riders I know are very nice people, but something is wrong if you like to cycle distances they are not normal. Very nerdy and strange, I think. Some kind of masochistic nerve or gene to do this.
2 hours later, and 140 kilometres further along the route in Glencoe, Marcus Jackson Baker is about to start his day.
A little bit of a lie-in this morning. About 180, 190k to go, so reasonably comfortable for the day, so tried to get a bit more sleep. See you up the road. It's always hard, these last little bits. You sort of think, oh, I'm so nearly there, and it's just staying on top of things, because it's still well over 100 miles, so you know that's a long day cycling for anyone. It does take quite a long time to sort of readjust and suddenly realise that there is more just than pedalling a bike, because you're so focused in these things. Literally all you're doing is ride, building up time to sleep, eating as much as you can when you can, collecting stamps and receipts, and that's it. You haven't had to think about anything, so it does take quite a while to A, for the ride to sink in, and B, to get back into the flow of real life.
4 hours later, at midday, the Swedish team finally make it to Glencoe. But there's still almost 200 kilometres to the finish line.
This is the slowest day so far, and we're pretty confident we will make it, but it's a lot of pain today. A lot of pain in the feet and in the back. But it works well, the guys are nice, they are doing the most of the pulling right now. And I think we will be there on time.
We're not laughing at you, Janne, I promise. We were just talking about the drugs we're going to give you. Yeah, and then tie a rope around you and just drag you to the finish line.
Let's keep going. Yeah. When you're doing cycling like that, even if the pace wasn't that fast, it still takes energy. It's long days, long distances, so you have to have energy all the time. So, I mean, lunch, whenever you're hungry, have lunch. If it's 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock, or it doesn't matter. And have the really heavy stuff, fish and chips, Coke, Fanta, something like that, to get energy.
There's a last ferry crossing from Dunoon to Gourock before that final ride down to Saltcoats. Time for a short break and a chance to contemplate how the body is coping.
My feet are totally done in. My feet is the worst thing going. Balls in my feet. Can't walk and they're in and it's terrible.
We've had a wash each as well, so we like to think we were going to win the gentleman's prize. Yeah, I mean, I say a wash, I mean, obviously the essential parts. This is like a joy now, cycling along now, and you know you've done it all.
Yeah, you can almost see it. It's just over there, really.
Just taking in the view.
Meanwhile, in spite of his earlier injury, Rimas Gregenas is part of the fastest group. They've left Gourock behind and are now on the home straight.
The good thing about Odex, it's not a race. We just decide how fast we want to go. You don't care or you don't know what time is it. You just ride and ride and ride. The evening comes, you know that sun is setting, you know it's the end of the day. What time, you don't care.
Saltcoats, 3:22 p.m. and Rimas's group are the first to finish. There are no crowds to greet them, no flags flying, and there certainly won't be on tonight's Reporting Scotland. An Audax event is nothing if not low-key. Yet the feelings of relief, exhaustion and exhilaration are just the same. These self-sufficient bikers have won no prizes, but their effort, endurance and skill would put many professionals to shame. This is cycling at its toughest, but most rewarding.
It was teamwork and we all stuck together, which was great. It was tough enough. I'll have a proper sleep tonight, maybe 12 hours. And I don't feel too bad. I think I'll see a doctor, because I may need some stitches. Everything works, it just needs some attention till it heals.
3.5 hours later, some local folk have discovered what's happening in their town. Stuart Allen and Phil Richards arrive to welcome applause and the realisation that they can finally stop pedalling. All this for just another stamp in a brevet card.
You end up speeding up towards the end, like the last kind of half of the day or the last wee bit, because you know like you're almost finished. Back to like normality now, instead of just pedalling your bike all the time. It takes a bit of getting used to.
Leaving Scotland is always really hard because it's so nice. And I've got to go to work and just be like a string of meetings and you know all that goes with that, and everybody's it's the rat race. So yeah, I've got to make sure I'm ready for that and sort of relaxation. So that'd be tough.
Just a couple of minutes later and it's finally all over for Marcus Jackson Baker.
It's always odd when you finish the really big rides. You feel very lost. You know, you've been carrying this little card around like it's your precious cargo and making sure you collect these stamps. Now somebody's taken it away from you. You don't have to get back on a bike. You know, I can now stop. I shall have a evening meal. I don't have to rush it. I don't have to jump back on my bike and ride 80 kilometres. So the routine you've got into of the last 4.5 days is suddenly gone. Yeah, lost, I think, is probably the best description of how I feel.
To make sure he's made the finish line on time, David Crampton has once again ridden through the night.
So I don't know how I've managed from Wednesday morning in Pulu at 8 o'clock, setting off, to today on 3 hours sleep. I've got a lot of sunburn and I've got some painful bits and I've got some sore bits. I can go home and sleep and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and keep eating and not worry about putting any weight on.
With 3 hours till the cut-off time, many of the cyclists are still out in the course. Ken Thompson's approaching the final ferry, the result of one big last push.
Yeah, well, I was going along beside Loch Eck, which I know quite well, enjoying the scenery, and then the Swedish train came past and I just managed to catch on the back and my speed doubled. So we came all the way into Dunoon there Just at the last minute, they went straight on when we should have gone left, and I shouted left, and they said no, straight on. So I went left, and 5 minutes later they passed me again, saying hi. So we got here together. It was fantastic.
I thought it would rain every single day, and it would be miserable.
Yeah,
and this has
windy.
been, yeah, this has been lovely.
Yeah.
Perfect weather, perfect everything. The conditions have been great.
Yeah. This ride has been lovely. With that said, I can honestly say that today I had a real low. That was this afternoon. It was just too much pain, and really, really tough. You have to ignore it. Just look around and see what's good about the ride, and it's lovely being on the bike. You know that you have a goal, you reach for that goal, and you know that when you reach the goal, that's the end. Tomorrow I will go to Edinburgh. On Sunday I will take the flight to Stockholm, and then I will go to the summer house I have, and we will sit in on the porch and have a glass of white wine, and I will be well adjusted right away, I think, and Monday I will be on the bike again.
Well done.
Nice
Good
ride.
Oh, no, you did the ride.
Hello. Hi.
Good to see you again.
Good to see
Well
you.
done.
Mark.
Yes.
The card.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
And we had a slight problem also.
Yes, I've understood this.
Nothing wrong.
That's okay.
That's okay.
I'll
Oh,
get
great.
you sorted.
Perfect.
No problem.
Thanks.
You're okay. I can't send you back to Sweden hating Scotland.
Because of the error in the GPS tracking, there's been special dispensation for the Swedes over the missing Lochinver control, so they'll be able to add this Audax to the roll call of success. Meanwhile, 20 minutes later, at just after 10 p.m, Ken Thompson rides into Saltcoats.
Quite happy that it's finished. A bit sad that it's finished too, because it's quite a challenge. Bits of me are quite sore. I'm tired, thirsty, but I'm so glad I did it.
They've ridden through day and night. They've coped with extreme heat. They've battled weary limbs. They've overcome damaged bikes and broken bodies, and they've seen Scotland at its very best. They wouldn't change their bike for any other form of transport, and they've pushed both it and themselves to the absolute limit. The spirit of Audax cycling may be difficult for outsiders to understand, but 1,300 kilometres in 100 hours says it all. Our congratulations to every single rider. They may be sore in the saddle, but they're strong in spirit.
It was really, really good fun, really satisfying to finish. A little bit sad, but there'll be another one.